Next question. Why is stance width narrow to wide so important? And what about ball position? Simple answer to that is we want to place our body in a position where sequence of motion is natural. It is not contrived. So to show you, I'm going to do one of each. So I'll do red 3, which is my upper core. And you'll notice handle size no longer matters with the proper form. Flat left wrist, don't add the trail hand until both hands are on. So this, I'm going to show you now why it is important to have a narrow stance with an upper core player. I'm going through this quickly. You want to hold for at least 10 seconds in each of these positions. If you're doing this, but I can get to it for demonstration pretty easily. Inhale, hold the breath for 10 seconds, then you're good to go. So I just did red 3. Which for me is 156. Okay, but my stance width, my stance width is going to be narrow. You heard me say that Kevin Stadler, large stature, and I lost the name right now, both very large, Ryder Cup captain from England, you'll know him. Anyway. So notice I'm going to go to a stance width here. I'll use this strip. I'm going to go to a stance width of, say, 15 inches. Okay. Now, my trail hip goes back as an upper core player. So if I start with my trail hip, you'll notice how easy that was. Center of mass is target side, and my balance, I still have a good bit of pressure on this side to be able to push through as I rotate. So if I have a narrow stance, that's a very simple. For me, 15 inches. Now I'm going to go out to, let's say 23 inches, because you're going to have students who are used to playing from a wide base. This is the content they need to practice at home. So if I go to 23 inches, lock out my knees, set my posture as upper core, and I want to start with that trail hip. Notice when that trail hip goes back, the shoulders go as well. Shoulders are going. I'm going to have to really restrict that shoulder. And when I do that, and I stand tall, my hips are wide open. That's the downswing path diagnosis, by the way. So I'm going to go out to 20, where was I here? I'll go to 23. Okay, I'm going to start back with the trail hip. Okay, shoulders wanting to go. But even if I try that motion from here, I'm stuck. When I stand tall, my hips are going to be open and my trail hip rises. Let me show you that from behind. That trail hip going high changes angle of impact or angle of approach to the ball. So here I am at 23 inches. Okay. Trail hip, shoulders want to go too. And I'm stuck. Notice my trail hip here. You can tell I can feel it is much higher and my hips are open. So I can use the downswing path to determine exactly what stance width is going to work. So I'm going to go back to 15, and you'll notice when you get in a narrow stance for the upper core player, it is just the trail hip moves, shoulders are not going anywhere. So my trail hip starts, okay, I have full rotation, I come back, my hips are square, and that was the ease of my motion. So I'm going to go, that is your upper core hands down, has to be a narrow stance. Okay, let's go to, I'm gonna go to blue. Go to blue 4. Blue 4, which is my lower core. Now, before I go to blue 4, when I add knee flex here from red 3, my weight's right at the balls of my feet. Okay, just a little forward, but on the balls of the feet. A little forward of that. If I did red 1, I'd feel in my toes and I'd feel my heels rising. That's how much change you'll feel in balance going from one zone to another. So let's go now to red 4. Add the trail hand last. Set the flat left wrist. And no knee flex. In through the nose. And again with your students, minimum 10-second hold. Add knee flex and forward. And still I have that flat left wrist pinching my shoulder blades together. If you haven't seen the last Zoom session, there's a segment on how to do the right balance express. This is all described. Now I am a low core player, where that's my dominant zone. I don't play from there anymore, I play mid. But I always had that wide base. In fact, had an article in one of the golf magazines in 2008, and I'll put an image of that in the Zoom summary. So if I have well, for the lower core player, you want a wide base to be able to separate upper and lower core. So we're just the opposite here. In the upper core, I started with the trail hip. With the low core, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to add posture. Now, if I start to rotate the shoulders, you'll notice how quiet my lower body is at this width, which is the key. So I start with the shoulders, turn. You'll notice my lead knee is, should be going pretty much straight out to that, in front of that ball. Full shoulder rotation, and I turn back, and my hips are square, add knee flex. Point is, this wide base allows the separation. Let me do that again. Shoulders first, rotate, and when I turn back, downswing path is going to be absolutely square. Show you this from the side. And I'm out right now. I am out at 29 inches, by the way. And this is pretty close to what I used to play. You see a player with a very wide base. So if you have someone who's coming in with a very wide base, doesn't mean they're low core. It means that's what they play from at that time. And they need to go to upper core, you really have to work. And that work is not done on the range. It's done at home. So here I am at 29 inches, okay? Notice how quiet. You'll notice the bar turn a little, but my shoulders start. And I have maximum rotation, loading over the trail side, and I turn back through. And you'll notice how easy it is to clear the hips here, by the way. But if I stand tall and relax, you'll notice my hips stay dead square. If I get narrow here, I'm going to go, let's call narrow 17. I was at 29, we'll go to 17. Okay, so okay, my goal is start with the shoulders. I know that, that's my sequencing. So if I start with it, notice that everything wants to go together from here. So I turn, I am over the trail side, but I'm stuck. Stand tall, and you can see my downswing path. I'm going to be steep to the ball. I'm going to be heavy left or blocked right if I hang back. So that's what's going to happen. What happens with stance width? The lesson here is stance width should create a natural sequencing of motion. You get too narrow as a low core, you're going to have downswing path that's going to be open or closed. If you get too wide, as an upper core, you can't separate. You cannot separate. You cannot. I'll go too wide. Okay, I'm gonna. This is too wide. Hips are wanting to go. Everything's going to go. Everything wants to go together here. So, knowing exactly what stance width, find something that's comfortable. Find something that allows your student to make the right sequence and motion from that stance width, and that is why. You know, we have a new member in Dubai who asked me a question that I answered once before, and when I answered that question, I assumed that I had a ball. You can see this ball today. I checked it earlier. I had a ball down. So when you're doing these exercises or you're practicing, you want to make sure you have a ball down. So I am going to go into my lower core. Let me see where I am. I am blue 4 and I have a complementary grip. You can see amount of rotation both ways. So the question was, from Dubai, what about side tilt? What about side tilt? A great question. And so what he's talking about are these angles. You will find, I believe, that the shoulder angle is equal to your carrying angle. Okay, so I'm on blue 4. So when I go to the ball, and I'm going to be able to set all of these angles, that's how much spine angle. And you'll notice where that, where the butt of the club points here. So if I go straight down, see how far back in my stance that ball is. But as soon as I add a little side tilt, add my trail hand now, you'll notice that ball is center forward. So that will change ball position when I get this side tilt for the low core player. What I didn't show you is, and that is my, by the way, that is my low core grip. I'm going to go back to upper core for you for just a second because there is a big difference here in amount of side angle and ball position. So I'm going to go to red 2, reset my body in upper core. Want to show you the amount of side tilt and how that ball position changes. What I didn't discuss with you is when I was in blue 4, my weight was well over the center of my arches, which gave me a great hip clearance. Now, I'm now on upper core. I'm going to put my ball here. Your ball position with upper core is going to be well forward. Okay, narrow stance. And red 2, I'll be darned. Complementary. Okay. Here's my complementary grip on red 2. Let's just test it. Back is good. Through is good. What happens if I go butterfly? Red 2? Stuck. So I am going complementary. And now when I take the club to the ground, if I go right down to the ground, notice that ball position's well back. And that is well back in my stance. But if I just add a bit of tilt, okay? Now, let's see just if posture and everything, with that amount of tilt, what it does. Turn back. That feels great. Feel the target side load of the center of mass. And I come back, and you want to check that side bend with that as well, okay? But if I go straight down without any side bend, all position is back, and I can still do my sequence of motion. But without that side bend, look what happened. I'm stuck, stand tall, my hips just flew open, my trail hip just rose. So side bend is important. It sets your ball position, and it'll keep your hips square. So if you're new with us today and you haven't seen the downswing path prediction, and it is very solid, I won't go into it here, very important. You can predict downswing path as I just did by showing the grip, both the grip style and the sequencing of motion. So that is why stance width is important, to allow the body to work naturally. The key word in all of this is natural, and absolutely everything you're doing is related to balance.